Hi, everybody. My name is Pat Nemia. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is Wellness Wednesday at the Federation for Children for Special Needs, and I am the project director from Mass Family Voices and the Family to Family Health Information Center. So thank you for being with us today, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the guidelines that have come out with reopening of school with regards to recommendations that are being made by the American Academy of Pediatrics. We have so much to think about and so much to consider when, reopening and moving back out into the world and our lives. And I think that, this information shines, it gives us a different opinion and different views and different reasons regarding how and why schools should reopen. So the American Academy has been, the American Academy of Pediatrics nationally has put out guidelines for reopening schools across the country, and these are kind of national guidelines. And I will say that Massachusetts is aligned with these guidelines. They take a little bit stronger stance with something like face masks, like they strongly recommend that face masks are worn, or rather than, well, we just recommend that they're worn. So they do take some bit of a stronger step, but basically are aligned with these guidelines. And these guidelines have 6 key principles. And I'm going to put everything in the comments later so that you can go back and read this. But the pediatricians are saying there's 6 key principles that they want schools to use to guide them in how they determine their policies to reopen. And those are that the policies needs to be flexible and nimble. They need to be open to new information as it comes available, and to be able to change and adjust. And so that's then the second one. They need to develop strategies that allow them to adapt as things may change over the course of the school year. And we know things are changing so quickly in different parts of the country, and how and when will that might impact us, we don't know. So we need to be able to adapt quickly to those changes. And that policies need to be feasible, they need to be practical, they need to be appropriate for children at different developmental stages. That special considerations should be given to different, to culturally different groups, to kids that have disabilities, so that we need to take into account that the policies aren't a one-size-fits-all, and that there are going to be groups of children that we need to think a little bit more about. They say that no child or adolescent should be left out of school. And so unless it's required for that child's well-being, so that there needs to be a team approach and a talking of the parent, the school, the physician, if it is a child, let's say, with medical needs, to determine what is the best, the safest, what is in that child's well-being. And then school policies need to be made and be guided by what is in the best interest in the well-being and the health of children. And so pediatricians and the American Academy of Pediatrics are strongly advocating for in-person school to begin in September. And the reason they are is because they believe that the harm to children from not being able to come out and into school is greater than the harm associated with the potential spread of the virus. So, and I think that they're saying that for a couple of reasons. And again, it would be great for you to read the guidance, and in the DESE guidance that's circulating about school reopening, there's an appendix, Appendix A, where they cite some of the medical information about what is different for kids with the virus than what is different from adults. And so part of what is part of why the pediatricians feel that this is something that can be attempted is that, number one, we know that children, the majority of children, so if we're talking about the general population, the majority of children have minor symptoms, or symptoms that do not result in severe illness at all, symptoms that they recover from at home, or are asymptomatic. And they're looking, the pediatricians in making these decisions are looking at the data, the emerging data that's coming out, not just from the United States, but also from other countries, including, but worldwide, in countries, parts of the world that have already gone back to school, and what is happening there. And so they're looking and they're analyzing that data. And two of the other things that may or seem to be becoming apparent are that children may not get infected at the same rate as adults, and they also may not spread the infection at the same rate as adults. So kind of all of this emerging and data that they're looking at is encouraging the Pediatric Association to say, you know, it's worth it to try to get kids back to school because it would be greater harm for them to stay at home. And so they're strongly advocating for that. And I think then, you know, in their guidelines, they go on to talk about beyond what they think the principles should be, why they think, you know, it should be, policy should be written for kids to go back to school. They do a lot of they write a lot of guidelines about the different aspects of school. So guidelines for classrooms, guidelines for playgrounds, guidelines for hygiene, guidelines for transportation. And so they give information to that can be utilized by school districts to determine how they can implement those services. But in those guidelines, there is a section for children with disabilities. And in that section, they do look and say, you know, we have to consider and give accommodations to these children. And we have to look at these situations and determine, you know, what is the best for them? What is the best situation for their well-being? And so I think that's a difficult thing, right? It's very hard at this point in our lives. There are no clear answers, and we're all struggling with assessing risk all the time. You know, should I go to the grocery store? Should I go into a restaurant to eat? Do I send my kid back to school? What do I do? And it's really hard because there's a lot of guidance, but there's not people saying this is the answer. And so I think the best thing that you can do is to, first of all, be proactive. So I know it's July. You don't have to start this today, but think about it. Don't wait until when your child's ready to go back to school. Start to think about it now. Reach out to your pediatrician and say to your pediatrician, this is my child's situation. And I understand the policies and things are trying to be written, but these are the things that my child experiences throughout the day that are going to be, you know, potentially situations that are not optimal, right? Or situations that could lead to close encounters or whatever. And I need to understand, you to understand that and to discuss what that means for my child. You know, maybe, you know, talk to your school, talk to your special educator. You know, the special education administrators should be in, you know, when they're figuring out how the school is going to work, ask, you know, is it possible for me to do a walkthrough with you and see actually what's going on so we can kind of walk through it and say, hey, wait a minute, that situation's not going to work. So be a little proactive, try to engage the parties that be, so that you have good information about the local level that you can share with your pediatrician and then in helping make those decisions. And if it's not your pediatrician, it may be a subspecialist that your child sees that you feel more comfortable discussing this with. And if you feel that, you know, that for some reason those discussions haven't been as productive as you would like them to be, you can reach out to us at the Federation. You know, we partner with organizations, we partner with the AAP in the state, and we can try to help get more information or connect you with someone who can possibly answer those questions a little bit better. But I think it's really important for people to understand that the AAP has taken this, you know, position, to read about it, and then, you know, to think about your particular situation, because our kids are not necessarily in that general group or the majority that can go back. And so, you know, really think about where you see the difficulties for your child during the day and engage both the school and the physician and come up with a plan that is in the best, you know, is in the best interest of your child and promotes your child's health and well-being. So I hope this was helpful. I will put some of the resources in the chat, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. All right, everybody, take care.